And based on the draft status and wanting to develop some chemistry in year one with a new regime, I actually expect him to get that starting job. Kyle Krabs, the Draft Network, here to tell you everything you need to know about the New York Giants 2022 NFL Draft class. New general manager Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll entered this year's class desperate to put the bad fortunes of the Dave Gettleman era behind the New York Giants. The good news is the team had a plethora of picks at their disposal, a total of 11 draft selections, including 2 in the first 7 picks. At pick number 5, the Giants drafted Kayvon Thibodeaux, pass rusher from Oregon. And Thibodeaux, along with Azeez Ojulari, should give the Giants a lot more potency and juice off the edge this season. My expectation is Thibodeaux is not only going to be an immediate starter for the Giants defense, he's going to be one of the most physically talented players on the field for the Giants defense at any given point. Plug and play starter, even though there is still developmental upside to be found in his game. At pick number 7, the Giants drafted Evan Neal, who throughout the course of his career at Alabama played right guard, right tackle, and left tackle. Now you have Andrew Thomas at left tackle. My expectation is from day one, Evan Neal's going to be your second best offensive lineman at worst on the offensive line. He's going to be a day one starter for you, presumably at right tackle. But the fact that he does have positional versatility continues to give you more confidence that he's going to find an immediate pathway to playing and getting on the field sooner rather than later. But day 2 brought some surprises for the Giants, starting with Wandel Robinson, the wide receiver from Kentucky, at number 43 overall. Brian Daboll, throughout the course of his career as a play caller in Buffalo, had a lot of schemed touches, and he used Isaiah McKenzie in that role. One would have to think that Robinson, at a minimum, is going to fulfill that role in the offense, although when the pick was made, many felt it could indicate the end for Kadarius Toney on the Giants roster. Those two players currently coexisting, therefore my expectation, Wandel Robinson, some reps in the slot, but he's going to be a guy that you manufacture touches for because that's what he did both at Nebraska and at Kentucky in 2021. In the 3rd round, the Giants drafted Josh Ezeudu, the offensive guard from North Carolina, and Cordell Floyd, the cornerback from LSU. From Ezeudu's standpoint, I think there's a pretty realistic chance that he pushes Shane Lemieux at the left guard for a starting role right away. You think about adding Mark Lewinsky at right guard, Ezeudu competing with Shane Lemieux. Ezeudu has some positional flexibility, played some tackle at North Carolina. I think he's a little more dynamic than what Shane Lemieux is, and based on the draft status and wanting to develop some chemistry in year one with a new regime, I actually expect him to get that starting job. Maybe not week 1, but by midseason in the second half of the year, I'd expect him to serve as a starter. Whereas Cordell Floyd, the Giants told us what they think of Floyd with this draft selection at 81. He's undersized, but he hits really well for a player of his stature, and I'm impressed with the fearlessness that he plays with. The Giants looking for coverage options. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys in this division. Perhaps Floyd they picked with in mind the Dallas Cowboys and trying to defend that 11 personnel. And then the Philadelphia Eagles with Devontae Smith and adding A.J. Brown to the mix. You're going to have guys who can cover and not just 2 guys to play on the outside. That's the role for Floyd. I don't necessarily see a prominent special teams role for him because of his size, and how he really fits the run is going to dictate how early and how often he plays for the Giants. On day 3, I look at tight end Daniel Bellinger, who they drafted at 112 overall, and his potential replacement as serving as the primary tight end now that Evan Ingram has left the team in free agency. Maybe not right away. A lot of times you see tight ends, they take a little bit of time to marinate, get their feet under them at the NFL level. Bellinger should be approached with reasonable expectations. But he's somebody who could play with his hand in the dirt, and he's somebody who's going to do a lot of the dirty work reps. And because of that, as the Giants' offense grows under Daboll, I expect Bellinger to get some splash plays because not a lot of teams are going to dictate a lot of attention to him. The question is, how early will he play? My expectation for year 1 is probably serving as the Giants' tight end 2. Dane Benton from Iowa, the safety, drafted at 114. I like this player a lot. I think he is really going to make a killing on special teams for the Giants. But he's an interesting dynamic compared to Floyd because Benton is well put together. He's a dense player. He tackles well. He just doesn't have the quick twitch that Cordell Floyd does. And if the Giants want to have 3 safeties on the field and run big nickel, I would not put it past Belton to earn some of those reps in the same way that Amani Hooker has earned them in Tennessee. So that is my vision for Dane Belton. Expect a lot of special teams reps for him early on because he's a good athlete and he can tackle in space, even if he doesn't have dynamic reactive quickness and change of direction skills. At 146, the Giants drafted Indiana linebacker Micah McFadden. And there was once upon a time in which McFadden was blitzing on approximately 50% of his reps as a linebacker in the Hoosiers defense. Now, if you're looking to add some third down value as a pressure player off the second level, there may be a rotational role in the defense for Micah McFadden, but my expectation is that that is probably a year 2, year 3 forecast for him. I expect a lot of teams for him as well. I do not necessarily see a pathway to consistent playing time for DJ Davidson, the interior defensive lineman from Arizona State, drafted at 147 overall. He is probably the team's third best A-gap defender, and those guys don't get a lot of snaps. I do think he's a developmental type player. I would not be surprised if he was a healthy scratch for portions of this season, unless injuries hit the New York Giants interior defensive line heavy. At 173, the Giants drafted Marcus McKeithen, the other North Carolina offensive lineman. And McKeithen is someone who I think will serve in a utility role for this Giants offensive line. We mentioned Andrew Thomas. We mentioned Evan Neal. We mentioned the addition of Josh Ezeudu and Shane Lemieux and Mark Lewinsky at potentially right guard. I think McKeithen serves as depth without center flexibility on his resume. So someone who can play as a primary backup in both of the guard spots and continue to provide competition as the Giants try to find their best combination of 5 players. And then finally, Darien Beavers at 182, and he's the polar opposite of Micah McFadden. He's really good against the run, but if you watched him against Alabama in the semifinal game, I thought you saw some instances that really showcased he's probably a year or 2 away from competing at a high level at the NFL level. And because of that, he, like Dane Belton, like Micah McFadden, is going to have to earn his reps on special teams. The good news, I think he's certainly capable of doing it. Appreciate you guys checking out this video. Make sure you hit subscribe on the channel and keep tabs on all 32 draft classes, and visit thedraftnetwork.com for all your NFL draft, and college football needs.